Greetings, everyone. I'm Paul James Caden, and welcome to the Spirit Side Podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people are having conversations about right now. It's a big story in the news. A lot of people that I know in podcasting are talking about this right now, and now I'm adding my voice to the conversation. And the subject we're going to be talking about is the tragic death of George Floyd. Now, most of you probably already know who that is and what happened. But if you don't, if you're listening to this show outside of the country, just to catch you up to speed, George Floyd was an African-American gentleman who lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, here in the United States. He was arrested by police officers who said that he was on drugs, he was being violent, he was resisting arrest. Although we have no proof that any of this happened, they proceeded to handcuff him, lay him on the ground face down, where an officer placed his knee in the back of George Floyd's neck and pinned him to the ground. Mr. Floyd can be heard on camera saying over and over again, "Please, I can't breathe. They're going to kill me. I can't breathe." Now, there were 3 or 4 officers on the scene when this was happening. There were people gathered around filming this incident with their cell phones, telling the officer, "He can't breathe. Get your knee out of the back of his neck." The thing that really got my goat was watching this person with his knee in the back of George Floyd's neck, looking down at George Floyd, looking at the people around with their cell phones filming this incident, completely expressionless. No look of regret, no look of concern, no look of, geez, maybe they're right. Maybe I better stand up and let this guy breathe. Nothing. Complete, blank, emotionless look. And meanwhile, the other police officers that are there on the scene do nothing to help George Floyd. They're too busy yelling at the crowd that's standing around saying, "Get your knee off the back of his neck." One of the police officers is even yelling at George Floyd laying on the ground, pleading for his life, saying he can't breathe. And the guy's just yelling at George Floyd, "You shouldn't have resisted an arrest. You shouldn't have done this." Nobody does anything to help this man. He ends up losing consciousness. The ambulance comes, takes him to the hospital, and George Floyd inevitably passes away. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is an absolute tragic, horrific, disgusting thing that has happened. And if I must be honest, if I was there, I don't think I could have just stood there and filmed it all with my cell phone. I'm a very peaceful person. I'm a very spiritual person. If you were, as I always say, a fly on the wall in my house, you'd see that I live spirituality pretty much 24/7. Very peaceful. I believe in living by the law of love and peace, loving our neighbor as ourselves, doing good to others. And if someone starts something with me, or if they were to start something with me, I could take a few hits, whether they be physical hits or verbal hits, before I start getting mad. It takes me a while to get to that point. But if I see someone being victimized or abused or hurt, especially when it comes to women, children, and animals, but this goes for anybody across the board, it's just one of those instances where immediately I can't stand to watch it. I have to do something. I may have asked politely or semi-politely for the guy to get his knee off of George Floyd's neck, but I think after that, if he just looked at me with that blank look, while all the other officers are yelling at everybody else or yelling at him, laying on the ground suffocating, I don't think I would have been able to control myself. I think I would have went in, I would have tried to tackle that guy, get his knee the hell off of George Floyd's neck, try to buy him a little time, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever I could, so the man could get a few breaths of air in his lungs. Maybe it would have saved his life. They would have had to take me down next to him, maybe put their knee on my neck and suffocate me to death. But you know what? Honestly, in my opinion, it would have been worth it. It would have been worth it to at least try and to do something. Because I can't stand to watch that kind of thing happen to anybody. And especially act so emotionless, like this is no big deal. I hear the guy saying he can't breathe. I'm just going to look at him down there gasping and pleading. No big deal. Pardon my friend, I think I would have lost my shit at that moment. Hands down, I think I would have. And the thing that makes me personally even more angry at this situation is we had 3 or 4 cops on the scene of this gentleman's arrest and murder. Because I agree with many other people that George Floyd was murdered. He was killed in cold blood on the streets of Minneapolis, Minnesota. No reason that this should have happened. He was face down on the ground, literally 5 to 8 inches away from a police cruiser. So even if by some chance he was resisting arrest or trying to be violent, you mean to tell me that 3 to 4 police officers couldn't get a handcuffed man up off of the street and put him in the back of that cruiser that was literally right there? Instead, this is what they chose to do. And it cost a man his life. And it cost family members one of their own. It cost the community one of their own. It absolutely boggles the mind how people think in this day and age and why they do the things that they do. But why did they do this? Why did George Floyd die? Why was he murdered in the streets of Minneapolis? Is it just because these people were heartless, soulless, prejudiced monsters? Could be. Could it be it's because we're so divided as a nation, as a world, as people? We hate our brothers and sisters because they're of a different political affiliation, because of their skin color, because of their religion, because people are that divided. And it's really scary and sad to see, folks, that there's far too many people in the world today that you hear saying things like, oh, you know, all those Democrats, they should all be killed. They should be put on an island and have a bomb dropped on it. Oh, same with those Republicans. Oh, I wish Donald Trump would die. Oh, all these, immigrants that are coming to America. All the African American people. Oh, they're no good. We should kill them all. You hear people say things like this. And now it's on both sides. You hear some African American people say, we need to purge the earth of the scourge that is the white man, and the day will come where we will have our day and wipe them all out and kill them because God is on our side, and all this crazy talk people engage in. What do we expect? What do we expect when we're that hateful, that divided, that murderous in our hearts? It's just like I said, and you've heard me say it on this podcast. I saw the way people talked on the internet, the attitude people had on the internet, how cold, how callous, how foul-mouthed, judging everything, judging everyone. And I told my wife, I told other family members, I said, it's not going to be long. And this was in the earlier 2000s, maybe around 2008, even before. I said, it's not going to be long before this kind of thing starts spilling over into real life. Because all the people that are saying it now on their computers from behind their keyboards, they're going to start saying it enough that they're going to start feel confident in going out into the world and acting this way. And they are, aren't they? Nothing is out of the eye of scrutiny and hate and being torn down by the haters, as we call them. So what do you think is going to happen when we have all this division and all these people that want to kill this group and that group and get rid of these people, and these people are no good? People that want to start civil wars here in the United States. Kill off certain groups, kill off certain leaders. Pretty soon, all of that talk is going to spill over into real life. More than we're already seeing it. And I think, sadly, that George Floyd was a victim of that kind of mentality spilling over into real life. And that's why I say on just about every show that I do lately, we need to stop. We need to stop. For all of you who want to be the oppressor, for all of you who want to be the aggressor, for all of you that want to go out there and start civil wars and kill African Americans or whatever it is you think you want to do, it's only a matter of time that you'll be killed too, and you'll be oppressed. Because eventually and inevitably, the oppressor always becomes the oppressed, and the killer always gets killed, and it's usually very brutal. So think before you act. Think before you take this kind of thing out into the streets and act upon it, because it will not go well for you. The next thing that comes to mind when I see this horrific tape of George Floyd being murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, Minnesota, is what some of my more respectable truther conspiracy theory friends have said. Now, there are people that take that kind of work very seriously. If they're wrong, they'll say they were wrong. If information turns out to be incorrect, they'll say it's incorrect. They're not always crying that the sky is falling or crying wolf. They try to gather real data, real information, and present it to those that listen to them. And I heard a couple of these folks say, okay, When the pandemic with the coronavirus first started, they said, how long will it be before the food shortages? How long will it be before millions of people are out of work and companies are closing their doors? Those things happened. I agreed that they would happen. I prepared for them to happen personally. And then a little ways into the pandemic, some of them said, I feel like there's going to be an incident, something we're all going to see on the news, and it's going to spark outrage. There's going to be rioting. There's going to be looting. There's going to be violence in the street. I wonder what it will be. George Floyd? That's something that each and every one of us have to decide for ourselves. But I'll tell you this. These people said this because they're not great prophets. It's because they know the playbook of these elitists, these people that want to control all of the resources in the world, these people who follow this warped philosophy and think that they are the chosen ones of the earth and literally somehow divine. And they've said it for centuries. They've said it for years. They've said it in the United States government and in the banking systems and the ultra-rich in the United Nations and the European Union. All these people have said it. There's the paper trail. How do we make the world willingly accept what they used to call the New World Order? Now they call it globalization or global government, global community. And they talk about countries like America and Israel that are, countries that really value their sovereignty. And they talk about bankrupting the country, destroying the dollar, creating food shortages, creating want, creating lack, and dividing the people. Divide them politically, divide them racially, divide the sexes, male and female. Divide them any way you can divide them. Make them see the stark differences that each and every one of them have and make them fight amongst one another because this will weaken their society. And they're much more easy to control at that point. You've heard me say that before too. I've said it within the last one or two podcasts. It's part of their agenda. It's part of their plan. Could it be that George Floyd was part of that plan? In the middle of a pandemic when everybody's fatigued and tired and anxious and stressed, they lost their jobs, they don't know when they're going to get food on the table next. The economy's taken a hit. Everybody's been in these lockdowns. Everybody's already on edge. Now let's hit them with this. Because stuff's going to go down. Could this be the spark they're hoping turns into a fire? Again, that's for each and every one of us to decide. I wouldn't say yes, I wouldn't say no, but I would say I wouldn't doubt it. Because I know some very smart people that keep their fingers on the pulse of this kind of thing who said, this is coming. I feel like this is coming. And brother and sister, it has. But now that being said, let me say this. If you are an African American, if you are a person of color, if you are Hispanic, Middle Eastern, Arabic, whatever you are, wherever you're from, if you're listening to this podcast right now, I want you to understand one thing. And I hope you'll share this message with your family members, your friends, your community, because this is a white guy saying this. We're not against you. We're not all sitting around chanting white power, wanting to wipe out the people of color. Everybody that I know, everybody that I've ever known throughout my life, I'm 53 years old now, myself included, white guy, are not prejudiced at all. They don't want to see African Americans getting hurt and killed by the police. They're not watching the news going, yay for the white cops. Not at all. We are outraged with you. When it comes to standing and making a statement and saying we're not going to put up with this kind of thing anymore, we are going to stand there with you, not against you. Don't believe this nonsense you see on the news. Don't believe this nonsense you see the media putting out there. Because it is a lie and it is a ploy to get us at each other's throats. We are not your enemy. We don't even see you as being different than us. I never have, and most people that I know and have known all my life feel the same way. We're all people. We're all human beings. We're all God's children. We're not drawing lines in the sand. Okay, those white people are over there, and okay, those blacks over there, and those Hispanics over there. That's not happening. And if you're listening in another country right now, and you're listening to my voice, particularly one of the predominantly Muslim countries, know that Americans don't hate Muslims. And they're not out to get you or to destroy your religion or to destroy your country or hurt you because you're a Muslim. It's the same principle. We see this crap on the news being perpetuated by the media, making it look that way because, yes, there are people out there who want us all divided, because united we stand and we stop oppression and tyranny. But divided we fall, and we fall right into its hands. So don't believe any of this. Don't feel like you're being cornered somewhere in the earth and all these white people are out to get you, because they're not. And if a group of white people do try to come and get you and corner you, there's going to be a bunch of us that come and stand with you. We see you as equals. We see you as brothers and sisters. And we have your back. I am not the only one who feels this way. I am not the only one who would say this. I am not the only white person that I know that would have taken a bullet or a knee to the neck for George Floyd if we were there. And we would have. So don't make this a race war. Don't make this a civil war. Don't give them what they want, because that is what they want. United we stand, divided we fall. And we are with you. And if there are people, whether they're cops, black, white, yellow, red, that want to stand with the oppressors, that's their prerogative. We're going to stand with you against that oppression. Believe that. Believe that. And I also want to say this. If you're one of these people out there looting and rioting and burning places of business and looting grocery stores and throwing Molotov cocktails into parked cars on the side of the road, you need to stop. This is not making a difference. This is not doing any justice to the name of George Floyd. You are just using his death as an excuse to act like a mindless animal. The grocery store you're breaking into, the property that you're taking, the cars and the buildings that you're burning, they had nothing to do with this. They are probably the people that will stand with you, but if you act like a bunch of lunatics, they're not going to. You're going to send more people into the camp of the enemy. Focus on what resistance and making a stand is and making a statement. When you're out there doing this kind of thing, looting grocery stores, burning down places of business, burning down homes, throwing Molotov cocktails into cars. That's not justice. That's not taking a stand. That's not making a difference. That's just playing into the hands of the people that want to see you do that sort of thing so they can call in the army, so they can call in the National Guard, so they can declare martial law. And then it's checkmate. And if and when you see people out there doing these kind of things, if you're out there protesting, if you're out there making a statement, if you're doing the right thing, don't join these kinds of people. And don't join these people if you see the militias rolling into town. Well, it's time to stand up and fight now. Don't join those people, because that will start the Civil War. That will start something that we will lose. And you know what? Some of my friends in the truther community who have integrity and call things pretty dang close a lot of the times have said it many times. Some of these people that do these crazy things, they're not one of us. They're not one of you. They're actually working for the oppressor to try to lead the herd by the nose to do something stupid and lead them right into the trap that they want them in. So don't join in on that kind of activity. If we're going to make George Floyd's death mean something, if we're going to get justice for him in his name and for other people and stop other people and African Americans from dying senselessly with these kind of acts, we have to do it the right way. Because if we play into their hands, we've already lost. And burning down grocery stores, stealing, looting, pillaging, rioting, destroying other people's private or public property, calling in militias or other people with guns and starting wars in the middle of the street, that's not going to do it. That is not going to do it. And there's some people chomping at the bit to do that kind of thing. And I have to wonder if some of the people egging them on aren't working for the competition. They're not working, or rather that they are working for the oppressors, trying to lead the herd by the nose. Yeah, you're mad. Yeah, you're disgusted with all this. Yeah, we've had enough. Let's go out and do something stupid. Let's make it so the U.S. Army has to roll into town, and man, we'll take them on too because, they work for the government. That's not what you want. Sometimes you fight if you have to, but if you go in for the kill right off the bat, chances are you're going to be killed. We can't be stupid about this. We have to stand together, and we have to stand in the right way. We have to know that we're not each other's enemy, and we have to work together. There's a part of me that sees these protests and this upheaval that's kind of happening after the death of George Floyd, and I say to myself, maybe a lot of people aren't as asleep as some of us think they are. because they are tired of the killing. They are tired of the oppression. They are tired of being marginalized. And maybe there are enough people that when the going gets really tough and these people try to push through their tyrannical plans, they'll stand up and say, hey, no, enough is enough. The buck stops here. You know, it's a really terrible, horrible, disgusting thing that happened to George Floyd. But maybe one day his name can go down in the history books as being a martyr and a hero, the man who woke up a nation that finally had the courage to say enough. And they changed a society, a nation, a country, a world from going in the wrong direction. He made us all open our eyes and see what was going on around us. And we changed the course of history for the better. And now we have a better world because of it, because of him. I wish that George Floyd was still here with us. I didn't even know the man, but he didn't deserve to die. He didn't deserve to be murdered in that way. But out of this tragedy, what I want for him and what I think he would want for himself and for his family and future generations of his family to see is that his death wasn't in vain. And he made people wake up and stand up and change what would have been a terrible, terrible mistake if we had stayed asleep and let the oppressors just creep into every nook and cranny of our lives and society and countries in the world like a growing fungus or a virus that none of us could control, or maybe we didn't care to. But again, we have to do this the right way. I don't think George Floyd would want any of us to become the thing that we hate the most. I don't think he would want us to become like the police officer that put his knee in the back of his neck and killed him. He wouldn't want us to become that, to try to avenge him in a way that is just as evil and wrong as the actions of the men who caused him to die. I think he would want better than that for us. And from what I understand, what I've heard from family members and people in his community on the news, he was a very gentle man, a very good man. And so I don't think I would be too far off on the limb or out on the limb to say he does want that for us. He does want us to do things the right way. And he wants us to make the world a better place. But he wants to see us do it in the right way. That's my conversation for today. I really hope you got something out of it. I hope you'll all share this podcast, especially if you're African American, if you're Hispanic, if you're a person of color, all of us. I really think we need to realize we're not each other's enemy. We are not what the media depicts us as, just as many of us know that the African American community isn't what the media depicts you as being. Because let's face it, they paint African Americans in a pretty bad light. But most of us know that's not true. Some of the best people I've known in my life were African Americans, poor African American families. But man, they were some of the most awesome people you ever wanted to sit down and talk to or have dinner with. And you always left their presence feeling like the world was a better place. And that you were a better person just by being in their presence. And I'm not even kidding when I say that. So let's stand together. Let's not be divided. Let's not let the media or the oppressor divide us. I'm Paul James Caden. I thank you for listening. Stay safe. Stay well. Stay in love. Stay united. And I'll see you next time here on the Spirit Side.